Hi everyone, this is Cat Dangerous. Today's video is going to talk about how to complete the currently existing or normal mode Faction Wars Crypts so that you will be able to participate in the new hard mode Faction Wars Crypts that will be added to the game imminently. I'm not sure of the precise date, but it's coming. So, why do we care about this? Well, the new hard mode Faction Wars Crypts will offer us higher rarity glyphs, which will allow us to get those max stat rolls that are higher than anything that's in the game currently. We'll all be able to take our champions up to the next level through use of these new glyphs. They will also be awarding relic materials, relic crafting materials as drops for completing the events or the stages of Faction War Crypts, and there are 8 new relics that are only available through Faction Wars Crypts, and some of them sound like they're pretty good fun. So you want to be able to start working on Faction Wars Crypts hard mode, if not when it drops, certainly as soon as you can, in order to boost your account. So I'm going to go into the Faction Wars crypts that are open now. There are 3 open right now. Show you what I'm using there briefly, and then I will pop into my roster and look in my vault and show you some champ candidates, what I'm using, as well as other candidates that might be able to help you complete any Faction Wars crypts that are not completed yet on your end. So that's the goal, and let's dive in. So for orcs, let's take a look at orcs. So I run this team right here in orcs. I have 2 level 40s here. Yes, that's correct. And a level 50. They do not have really great gear on them, but because I was able to pull a seer, who is a hard carry, along with Tagore, for Orcs Crypt, I've been completing this on Auto Battle Stage 21 for ages now. Seer consumes all the buffs from her team and from the enemy team, and that allows her to make a really big hit on the boss. So I have my Void Crypt capped with crit damage at level 10 in the affinity bonuses, and I run her in Relentless with a lot of crit damage, and then I run Tagore in Stalwart set to just keep him alive. Stone Skin or something like that would work too, but you just want to keep him alive. He doesn't need regen. He has his own heal. He has his own shields. And then I just went shopping for 3 champs who have some buffs on them. So I have a separate video on this team showing it getting completed on Auto Battle, but and somewhere around 6 or 7 or 8 minutes, they'll cycle through and get this completely done. But pretty much just these two. These 2 carry whatever else you want to bring. So if you are lucky and you get Seer, you don't have to worry about this. There are some other great champs. Survivor is a really strong champ in a lot of areas of the game, thanks in part to her passive. She can put up an ally protect, and then she has a block damage that pops up on her when she does that, and it activates on a passive as damage comes in. Zargala, Tila here, the first one, is a good champ. I just recently got these 3. Some of them don't even have proper gear on. There are lots of really decent champs in this faction that can help you get this completed. But if you luck out with Seer and Tagore, they're a hard carry, and you don't need to worry about leveling up anybody else, really. Okay, so that's for orcs. And let's take a quick look at dwarves. If you happen to get Geomancer, you're going to have an easy time in here. I'm using a level 50 Melga to heal. I have Morag, who is a damage dealer, defense-based at 60, plus enhanced to +2 with no soul. She does a lot of great damage, and she also puts strengthen up on the team. I'm using a level 50 Rockbreaker, who's in pretty garbagey gear. I recently got Geo, which allowed me to complete this crypt finally. I think it was the last 2 or 3 stages that I wasn't able to complete without Geo, so I hope you get him. I think he's pretty vital. And Filja is a really strong damage champ. I have her +3. I've just pulled a bunch of her, and she can destroy max HP, so I threw in a destroy set that had some decent damage stats, and off you go. There are some other dwarves in here. This rear guard sergeant can be pretty strong, and you can see I have a couple extra Filja and Morags in here. Candle Guard's not too bad for a rare, but really I think it's going to come down to whether you have a Geo or not, and in terms of how easy this last stage 21 is going to be for you. So hopefully you get him. And then let's move on to the next crypt. The third one that is open today is Dark Elves. And I just now popped Foley in here. Before that, I was running the free champ physics. So this is what I was running. I obviously have Lydia now. You won't have Lydia because she's the prize you get when you complete her. And I can run Foley in there as well. Foley's another good option. He brings some nice damage. But this team here will get it done. I mean, a rare Cold Heart. She does have a 6-star soul, and I have her crit rate at around 70%, and then I loaded her up with crit damage. Caden does nice damage, but he's a reviver in case somebody falls down, and you need everyone to be alive in order to get your 3 stars. Mithrala is, of course, your reward for Hydra. And she's super strong. It'd be hard to do it without her. And it's actually quite hard to do it without Madame Ceres unless you have another really strong option for buff removals. But she comes in and just strips all of those buffs off, and that allows your team to just come in and kill them all pretty easily. So this team right here, even before Vizix was 6 stars, even at level 55 stars, was able to auto battle this without a problem. So again, level 50, excuse me, level 50 Caden up here, and then these guys here will get it done for you in Dark Elves. But there are some other good options. Dark Kale is really good. Rian is good. Theresk can be good. And I have War Master Ovelis or whatever his name is. I never did anything with him. He doesn't have his books or skills or anything. He's probably not wearing any gear. But there are some options in this faction that can help you get it done. But it certainly helps to have Vizix. She helps a lot with reducing turn meter and just supporting your team, keeping them alive, and putting some provokes out there. Okay, so I'm going to go into my roster. And we're just going to click the vault because a lot of my champs that I use for Faction Wars are actually in the vault. And let me show you what I'm using for each of the crypts. So I use Rathalos as my main damage dealer. He's the carry in Bannerlord's faction. I was surprised by how good Chronicler Adeline is. She is quite strong. And being able to steal the unkillable buff from a couple of the mobs that get it in stage 21. And providing some heals, and I actually threw in curing set. I thought that made sense for her, and you can see her gear is not good. The gear is just very mediocre. It's not even leveled up. So I run her just like this. And for me, the big thing that helped me get this done was putting Archmage Helmet, who has an AOE AOE stun, putting him in a stun set so that I have a higher chance of getting a stun. So I get two opportunities, one through his actual kit and then one through the stun set to put stuns out on the field. And the extra crowd control was all I needed to get it 3-starred. Giscard is also quite good at buffing your team and getting provokes out so that the enemies can't use their skills. And Lady Annabelle's really good at keeping herself alive, and then she'll do that health swap with the other champ on your team, and then at the same time puts the revive up on the one with the lower health pool when that swap is completed. So she's not a great reviver, but she gets the job done here, absolutely. And I'm running her in regen, and Rathalos is in a damage set. I have him in a 6-piece Slayer, but he just needs to hit hard, however you can get him to do that. And again, I put curing on Chronicler. She's my only champ, I think, in curing. Okay, so that team will get it done on auto. Maybe not 3 stars, but on auto at stage 21. Just gets it done for me. Hopefully you can put together something similar. So for high elves, this is, let me make sure I have my master vault. Okay, so I do have some other champs. I do need to see the vault. So for here, Arbiter is your hard carry for high elves. And the more you can give her, an apothecary is the other. I run apothecary, or level 50 rare, with Arbiter and with my Fenisil, who didn't look anything like this. He's still level 50, but he wasn't enhanced and he didn't have a soul. Those 3 keep your team alive, and then you just need to supplement with a couple damage champs. So you could do, like in my case, you could do Royal Guard and Yannicka, or even Elhain. Mine's still level 50. This guy's decent. Vergus. If you need more support, you could go Scaramus. So there's some decent options here, but there aren't a lot of high elves that really hit it out of the park damage-wise. If you happen to have Fina, more power to you. But you can get it done with these guys, these level 50s. I bring 3 level 50s, 1 rare, 2 epics, and my Arbiter. And that's what I use. Actually, it's 3 epics because I bring my Royal Guard as well. So they could do it on full auto. They'll once in a while they'll kill someone, but there's so much healing and turn meter generation going on with this team that I just pop them right back up with Arbiter, and it's just no issue. I've been able to auto battle with that team for the longest time. I went to the wrong place. Apologies. Okay, so going back in, let's take a look at the next faction and see if you can build something similar for barbarians. And no, we're on Sacred Order. We'll get to barbarians in a second. So for Sacred Order, I have a really great champ, Corvus, and I do use him. His aura is a defense aura that helps keep the team alive, and he puts tons of poisons and poison sensitivity out on the field. And he has a decreased attack A1, which sometimes lands. I think it's at 60%. But there are lots of really great revivers, damage dealers, turn meter manipulators, etc. in this faction. It's really strong. So you want to make sure you have a reviver for this faction. Unfortunately, there are several good ones. So I did get Godseeker Aniri after I'd already completed the faction crypt for Sacred Order, and she's obviously very strong. She has a really nice passive that'll bring someone back, preempting death and bringing them back immediately. And then she has an actual revive as well and some heals on her other 2 abilities. A lot of people use her for Sand Devil and run her in a regen set with high defense, but I couldn't build that, so I just have her in some stalwart gear right now. Just make sure that she stays up if you bring her. I actually completed the crypt using Cardinal, who's another very solid reviver, and when she brings her champs back, they come back with full turn meter, which is outstanding. So they come back with max turn meter, and so she's a popular reviver for Arena. Noelle is another popular reviver for Arena, and she can revive all dead allies with 50% HP and 50% turn meter and freeze all the enemies at the same time, which is pretty amazing to have on one skill. And then she can do some things with sheep and whatever, which probably won't apply here in Faction Wars Crypts, but she can put the speed up at least on your team to get them moving a little bit more quickly. As far as turn meter is concerned, you can also use Deacon Armstrong to give yourself a turn meter boost as well as decrease enemy turn meters. That's a really strong skill. And then decrease defense on an AoE, especially the 60% version, is always really good too. So he brings that. If you had Gretel, you could use her. She has some turn meter manipulation abilities as well as being a pretty strong attacker. I did her. She was the fusion. Alice is a free champ. Mine's not finished, but she has a strong kit too for doing damage and um, manipulating cooldowns and doing some other cool things. And then personally, I just adore Fenix. He's an epic champ. I did pull 5 of him, so I have him at +4. And he does phenomenal damage, especially if you have some defense ignore on him and just give him some crit rate and crit damage. And then accuracy is actually really good on him too. He definitely makes use of accuracy if you can afford it in your build. But this is a strong faction, so hopefully you won't have too much trouble pretty quickly getting a lineup that will work for you. Armiger is very popular for an uncommon. And even Relic Keeper can do some good work if you bring champs in who hit hard but don't quite get it done. Maybe your Gretel or your Alice doesn't quite get everyone down. Relic Keeper can actually come in with his A1 just going over and over again. If he kills somebody, he just gets an extra turn and he can clear the board. So there are some interesting champs in this faction. Hopefully, Sacred Order is one that won't be too difficult for you to do. Take a look at Barbarians and see. Barbarians is one of the factions that a lot of players complete first. It's easy. They give you High Katoon, who can give your team a lot of speed and push back turn meter on the enemies, so good crowd control. Most of us or a lot of us have Loki, who was a free champ that we got. Your Carl's from the shop, the clan shop, and I got him very, very early and used him a ton. I used him for everything. Syl is the login champ that you get for free. And I pulled an Alika early. I just barely got my Fat Man. But what I run is actually, yeah, I run a Yakral lead for the extra attack that you get from the All Battles attack aura. And then I run my Alika, and Syl is your hard carry. So if you bring Syl with some other guys who are reasonable, whoever that may be, you'll be fine. This rare War Maiden is tremendous. She's great with her defense down. Debuff. She's really strong. She can hit hard too. And this is a great rare. I actually run her. I run Soul Bond Bowyer on my team, even at level 40, and apparently with no gear on. I think I need to get some gear on her. I may have taken her gear off recently in a gear cleanse, but I mean, Woad Painted isn't bad. This girl's not bad. Jotun's good for damage. I lucked out with Alika, and I keep getting her, so I have 3 of her now. She's +3 enhanced. I guess that means I pulled 4. So, just bring some damage. And then if you happen to luck out and get Skytouch Shaman, I just adore this champ. She's really cool looking for one thing, but her kit is really, really strong. It pumps out amazing heals. And I'm running her in a protection set right now so that the revive can't be stolen and the block debuffs can't be stolen. It's still a set in progress, but she is so good with Syl of Drakes. People say Skytouch isn't great because she kills herself, but Syl will keep her up. So just put these two together with some free guys, and you'll be totally fine. They're a strong, very strong carry. If you happen to have Skytouch, she's great. Otherwise, your Syl will be your healer, and you probably won't need any other healing besides that to clear stage 21. Let's move on down to Ogryn Tribes and see what we can do here with Ogryn. So, most people try to pick up a Bellower and have developed him to some extent. He can be your damage. I'm running him in a almost complete Slayer set, but he's only level 50, so I wasn't able to get the 9-piece set. I'll do that when I take him to 60 someday. But at level 50, Bellower is my damage. I lucked out and got a Skull Crusher. He's still level 50, but I put him in some regen. I use Urogrim for, I used him for the aura. Now I have a slightly better one here with stock, but you don't have to have stock. He's really helpful. He's super, super good with his healing. But you can do an Urogrim, Skull Crusher, Ugo, Bellower, and Claude, or if you got a Siege Hulk, he can work. My other champs here are really just not very well developed. Wuzgar's good. Occult Brawler's good. So there are quite a few that work in here. Shatterbones is pretty good with some turn meter stuff. But if you get stock, I would definitely take him. His aura's good. And for giggles, because he has this business going on here where when he destroys max HP by activating his A2, and it's 3% for each poison on him. That's the reasoning for me giving him the one toxic set that I have equipped on anybody. I put it on this guy just because I wanted a place to put it. He's my toxic set coat hanger. And it works pretty good on him. So hopefully you'll be able to get this faction down. Having a Skull Crusher who can put ally attack on everyone and an unkillable on himself is really helpful. And I think with the ally, and not the ally attack, the counter attack. The counter attack also comes with a protection buff, I believe. Yes, ally protection and counter attack, and then the unkillable for himself. So he will help you get through it with 3 stars. He's a good one. Okay, moving on to the next faction. Let's take a look now at Lizardmen. Lizardmen is a hard faction. I lucked out and I pulled a mythical. I got Lazarius, but without Lazarius, who is a super strong carry, I probably honestly wouldn't have this crypt done by now. But if you get Venom Mage, take a Venom Mage. Quargan is good support, lots of nice buffs, and they go to the right champs. He gives defense up to your defense-based champs. He gives attack up to the attack-based champs. Razin is a fusion, and this guy was a fusion, and this guy was a free early champ, and this guy is a fusion. And then I have an Aox who probably isn't wearing any gear. Nope, he's not. But there's some good champs in here that you'll be able to use. Broodlord's not terrible. Some people have Muckstalker geared up for Sand Devil because of his sleeps. I started to, but then didn't finish him. But I'm able to run it on auto with Lazarius, Venom Mage, who I am running in a 9-piece feral. That's for Amius. That's why he's like that. I take Razin. I was trying to build him fast, but you can see I failed here. And then I actually bring Cagebound, who is missing some of his gear. But Laz is such a strong carry. Slixus does most of my damage, and then I just can kind of fill in with whoever I want to use. Pretty much anything would probably work there. But if you don't have a Laz, I mean, there are some other really strong lizards. Your Leggett Teox, and I forget the name of the other guy, but there's some good lizards out there now. Hopefully, you'll pull one of them and be able to complete that faction as well. Um, let's take a look at the next one. So Skinwalkers are another interesting one where there are a couple strong carries. So if you manage to get Sun Wu, he's your damage champ. He can also remove any buffs out there. And there are some, seem to recall there's some pesky buffs that you have to fight against. And then Uko is super strong. He can also remove buffs, and he's your reviver, so I built him tanky-ish. And then I got Bracchus, who's good if he dies. Fortunately, he pops right back up. And then just recently, you're able to get Cleopteryx, I think, from either daily logins, I think it is. Maybe it's a Doom Tower, but I think it's a daily logins. And then I pulled this Hartkorn guy who's actually a halfway decent support. I like him. And then, you can get Balf. But for me, what I'm using is this level 40 Meat Carver Tolog as a reviver. And he helps revive Uko if Uko goes down, and then Uko revives him. And then I run him in a regen set, and I didn't even realize I don't have anything else on him. But this is how I run him. And stage 21. And then I use this level 40 guy wearing this stuff, level 8 gear, and some 12s. So these are my carries, Sunwoo, Uko, and Bracchus, and those two are my damage and my revivers. And he's just a backup revive, and he's just really there for nothing. He does give himself an unkillable. But try to come up with some champs you can hit. Cleopteryx is not the worst. Hopefully you got a Sunwoo for free, and just put together something like that. But having a backup reviver or healer, the Steel Skull can be a good healer too. It's clutch having a backup. And I just recently pulled Fane, so I'm not even sure what her kit does. But there are enough Skinwalkers that you can put together a team for Skinwalkers that does not have to be high powered at all. And you can still 3-star that boss node with those wimpy Skinwalkers. So again, I take 2 level 40 rares, and then these 3 legendaries. So you can do it with that. And some really nice strong carries in that faction. Now we already looked at my orc team. But I will quickly show you the gear. So there is let me hide this. There's my Seer. She's in a Relentless set with some decent accuracy on it. Here's my Tagore and his Stalwart set. I'm not running her, but I should be. I just started gearing her up. Sandlosh is really great. Put her toward the back of your lineup so that when her passive procs, you'll spare yourself a lot of damage. And then I'm using my Gaelic. Like that. He's in a swift parry, and she usually just eats the unkillable buff when she does her buff steal thing. And then I'm running Ironclad at level 40 and Maruka at level 40. So those are my level 40s that I take here. It's 2 rares, 2 level 40s, Tagore and Seer. So if you luck out and get Seer, don't invest a lot of money leveling up some other orcs. But if you don't get Seer, then you're going to be looking for someone else who can really pump out some nice damage for you in order to get that completed. Okay, so moving down to the next faction, we're on the right hand side. Let's look at Demon Spawn. Demon Spawn was my last crypt to complete. Demon Spawn was so hard for me. And Lamassu was what did it for me. I finally won her from Siege victories. I made her fast, put her in a swift parry so she wouldn't die. At least I'd have a chance of that unkillable procking. And I run her like that, and she can give whoever needs the extra turn, but she'll feed somebody 50% turn meter. So I can and reset skills. So I can either put more bombs out with Shazar, or I think what I actually did was feed Countess Lix another turn so that she could put the speed down out and steal some turn meter. But very late in the day, I finally got Magnar, and he puts out enough damage that I could finally kill the boss and the waves. So yeah, I would suggest that. Achek is a really good support. He's great. So moving on from Demon Spawn, let's hop in here and take a look at the next faction, which is Undead Hordes. So for Undead Hordes, some of you may have picked up Entertainer Fabian as the fusion from, I think it was just last month, maybe March or April. And he's pretty good, actually, in Faction Wars. He's great with crowd control, and he can help a little bit with reducing turn meters using his A1. So I'm taking him. And then my one and only Void Legendary that I've ever pulled from a shard is Valkanen, and he does pretty decent damage as well. So you can have some control, a nice damage champ, and then Vogoth is a tank, a crowd control, and a healer, all wrapped up in one. The heals come through the passive as well as the leech debuff that he puts out. He controls via his AoE provoke, and he's just really, he's tanky and robust. His heal goes out when he takes damage as a tank, especially with the provoke. It's a nice combination. The rest of the team will get approximately a 50% heal, 50% of the damage that he received. So it's good. So I use these three. And then I really like to use Gorgorab as a reviver. He's a great reviver, totally workable even as an epic, and he pairs really well with my Valkanen, who likes to kill a team member in order to get a damage boost and put a block revive out. So bringing a reviver is really important if you're going to try to use Valkanen. I didn't actually use Valkanen's special skill and kill people on the final wave. I just, just didn't kill anyone so that I could get my 3 stars. So you might consider doing that. But these 4 that I have at the top here are really great for a composition. And then for my 5th, I'm just using a level 50 Mausoleum Mage, who was recently one of the progressive champions that you could pick for your epic slot. He's pretty strong. I'm running mine in the Stone Skin set. That works pretty well. So other candidates besides Mausoleum Mage could be Catacomb Counselor, who has a really nice ally attack. Zalota can be a good candidate for healing and shields, as well as some crowd control, though it sleeps, so I wouldn't pair him with Suzerain, whose abilities are all AoEs and will wake up the sleeping champs. On the other side, Dark Elhain, a lot of people have built. She has some really great damage. And Anax is another good candidate for this faction for damage. And Hexia is not bad. And if you need a reviver and you don't have Gorgrab, you could probably make Grinner work. He can also strip off some buffs or reduce the duration. There we go, remove. So yeah, there's some good candidates here that you can use to try to complete this faction dungeon. Seeker is another one that a lot of people already have for Clan Boss, and he has some good abilities here, especially the passive, which when he gets hit with the critical hit will throw defense up on the team. That's a good one. So hopefully you'll be able to put a team together for Undead Hordes. And we can go down to Dark Elves now and take a look, see what we have. So Mithrala is the Hydra reward champion, and she's outstanding. I haven't moved her into protection or feral set yet, so I just have her high accuracy, high defense, and high speed, and that gives her high resistance as part of her kit. So she's a really strong one for this faction. I highly encourage you to try to get to the place in Hydra where you can pick up Mithrala if you want to complete the Dark Elves crypt. If you get Foley, he's a good damage option, but you really don't need a Foley. You can use one or more Cold Hearts. I have 2 Cold Hearts here, one at 60, one at 50. And they're my primary damage. Kale does very respectable damage, even as a rare. Dark Kale can be a damage dealer and put some debuffs out for you. Some poisons and poison sensitivity. So he's a good candidate. If I recall, Delver does okay in here. But I would really just say try to, if you get a Madame Ceres, try to build her fast and with high accuracy so that she'll be able to remove the buffs in here, because I found that she's really clutch. Having her was for me probably the difference between completing it and not completing it. So if you don't have her, look for some other abilities to place block buffs, debuff, or otherwise remove buffs from the champs in here. You may find use for Paragon, who can put up a unkillable buff on someone. I'm using Caden even at level 50. I used him at level 40 as well. I think I completed stage 21 with him at 40, if I recall. And then Vizix is always good with her turn meter reduction on her A1, and the ability to put out decreased speed and give an ally protect and then provoke. So I think there's some good options in dark elves. And then there are champs, of course, that I don't have as well, who can get it done for you, who are pretty strong. So most people don't have too much trouble, especially once they've unlocked Mithrala and picked up maybe a Cold Heart, with getting this particular faction completed. So moving on to the next faction, let's take a look at Knights Revenant. So I think Knights Revenant has a bit of a reputation for being the worst crypt. I think a lot of people have trouble beating this one. And I don't have the strongest champs for it, but I will say that Miscreated Monster is so perfect for completing this crypt. So what does he bring? Why is he so great? Well, he's well known for being great in Spider, in part because he can put up an amazing shield on all of your allies. It's a 3-turn shield equal to 25% of the damage that he inflicts. So that's the main thing. He also has a heal. He can heal himself by 50% of his HP. As well as put some continuous heals out and offer ally protection for his allies. He can even fear if somebody hits an ally, when there's an ally protection buff up on them. He can put a decreased defense down if he places the stun on the A1. I don't see that proc too often, but his kit's just really strong for keeping everyone alive and for crowd control. So I hope you'll be able to get Miscreated Monster. If you do look out and get him, definitely invest in him. He's good in multiple areas of the game, but he's really strong in this crypt. I like to pair him with Rector Drath as a reviver, and these two are a pretty strong pairing just for keeping everyone alive or bringing them back, because it seems to me that this crypt deals a bunch of damage. And so just anything you can do to try to bring back dead champions. Reviver's generally a good idea to have in every crypt if you can find one, especially when you're aiming for the 3-star feat for completion. So Rector Drath's really popular Hydra champ. She's also a good investment generally, not just a Faction Wars Crypts champion. She has some nice heals here, continuous heals. She can put a veil on the team, just it's a conditional situation there. She can revive a single ally with 60% HP and a 60% turn meter fill and veil them. And this is a passive. She heals them when they get a turn if they're under a veil. And then she can even place decreased attack. So if you have a particular champion like the boss that you're worried about the damage that's being dished out, you can give her some accuracy in her build. Mine doesn't have nearly enough, but she does still land the attack down periodically. So my team, it consists of these two, plus, let's see who I'm using. I believe I'm running Calvalax as my aura because he has the speed aura in all battles. He'll place some poisons out on the field, which allow me to start to whittle away at the boss. And then I pair him with Theodore. That's a strong pairing as well. So if you get a Theodore and a Calvalax, I realize those are Legos, but they're pretty strong for killing mobs via the poison damage. And again, Theodore can activate, so that's good. And then really there's lots of other good candidates, including several in my roster that you could certainly use to fill in. My Skull Crown is not level 60 yet, and her gear is kind of so I'm not using her, but she's actually really good. And I have Sinesha, so this pairing is fabulous together. Sinesha could be your healer. If you need a healer and you don't have a Rector Drath, she's pretty strong. Also in the healing category is Mad Hatter. he has this really great heal on his passive, which I use him in Chimera as my healer. And so he heals them by 20% of max HP every 10 turns taken, and then he can throw some fears out every 6 enemy turns taken. So he's really cool. He's an awesome champ. And then when he puts Hex out on the field with this ability, his A2, he will call your highest crit damage champion to team up and join the attack. For me, that's my miscreated monster. At least I think it is. Let's take a look at my Whisper. So Whisper is also, nope, it's my Whisper. If I bring Whisper, it's her. But I think I've been leaving Whisper at home, and I realized I needed even more survivability for the team than my miscreated monster and Rector could provide. So I started using my level 50 unascended Gaiath, the Truth Shield. She's not even ascended. She doesn't have a soul either. She probably is not booked. She probably, nope, no books or masteries. But she just brings a little extra survivability to my team through this skill here. So the main thing to keep in mind when you're on the final boss is to make sure that you're timing your abilities that include buffs at the right time, because the boss does steal your buffs. She'll steal the reflect damage. She'll steal the ally protect that he can put out. She'll steal the continuous heals. So just watch that. I play it manual sometimes. Usually I'll just try autoing it, and if it fails, then I'll go ahead and manual it. But I can get it done with at least one level 50 here. But I realize I do have a pretty stacked roster of champs here with 5 or 6 or more Legos in here, as well as 2 of the better epics that are in the faction, in my opinion. 4 of them, actually, if you count these 2. So, and Whisper. So I have a pretty good set of Knights Revenant, and so this crypt was not terribly difficult for me. So hopefully you'll get some of the Knights Revenant who work well in here. I have a bunch of others who I would say are not very good for this crypt. Maybe you could make Doom Priest work for you, but Sepulcher can come in handy at times because she has a block damage ability here, and be mindful of positioning there. The champ who you're trying to protect, which if it's your reviver, for instance, needs to be positioned, I think, in second place behind her. So you might have to use her as the aura and her in the second position in order for her to be selected as the ally to be protected. It's something like that. So be mindful of that. And again, just watch the timing on when you're putting buffs out on the field, when you're fighting the final wave 21 or stage 21 boss there. Okay, let's look at dwarves and see what we can do here. Okay, so if you have the Geomancer, then you will be in pretty good shape. I'll make that prediction now. There are a number of other champs you can bring with him. I have the worst dwarves of any player in the game, I think, except for finally pulling Geomancer, and I needed him in order to get the last couple waves down. So good luck getting Geomancer. There are some other really strong dwarves. Obviously, we can think of some, the Trundas and so on, Tormund, etc. So there are lots of really well-known dwarves. I don't have any of them except for Geo. So I was able to get it done, though, using the team that I showed you earlier, which is Geo. Melga is my reviver and healer. Morag, who I run in a lifesteal set to just try to keep her up and let her get some self-healing. She counterattacks a lot. And my damage dealer, as I said, is able to destroy HP. So I threw her in a HP destroy, and she steals 100% of turn meters. So make sure if you use Filja, you build her with accuracy. My rock breaker is missing a couple pieces due to the gear purge I did recently, but just try to put him in some defense and keep him up. So I think dwarves can get done if you have Geo. So I'll be hoping for all of you to get a Geo, and beyond that, you don't need the fanciest dwarves out there to complete the crypt. For Shadowkin, Shadowkin is an interesting faction because it is full of hard-hitting champions, and it can be really hard to get additional support if you need some additional support, like crowd control, healing, and revives, and so on. So I did go ahead and bring my Hotatsu up to level 60 for this, just to get some support from him in the form of attack down and a little heal here on the continuous heal A3, and then some increased defense. And then he can remove a random debuff, etc. And then he has a leech, and the leech is probably the most important reason to use him if you're bringing in a lot of these attackers. Hopefully, most people have a ninja. He's come around twice now for free. I wasn't playing the game the first time he came around, but when he came around the second time, I did get him. Mikage, you can fuse if you're lucky enough to get the champs you need to do that. So you could run like a Hotatsu if you get him, or someone else who can give you maybe a little bit of support to keep you up. And then, an attacker, and Mikage can do an ally attack, which is really strong, or you could flip her into the alt form and have her do an AoE daze. And then if you look out and get Toshiro, these two are one of the best pairings in game, I think, right up there with Ancora and Narses and some of the other great pairings. These two are very strong. So I actually just run it with these two. I run Toshiro and Lady Mikage, and I 2-man it. It takes a minute or so. So, I can do that now, but it was really hard getting 3 stars. And I think what I ended up using was this top row here, the 4 of them, plus perhaps I think I did Boran Giri because he has this AoE stun, and I run him in a stun set. So I was just trying to get a little more crowd control from him. Another good option could be Fenchi because he steals turn meter on his A1, and he can also steal turn meter on his A. Oh, I'm sorry, the turn meter removal is the A2. Decreased speed is the A1. And he can put some poisons out too, but he does okay damage. And I was using Life Taker early on as well. So if you're at the stage of the game where you don't have a lot of legendaries or even epics, Life Taker is a good candidate. And she's also good in the potion keep. So, I try to always pick champs who I can use in other areas of the game. And Obero is a really strong Hydra champ. So she needs a pretty powerful build, and I decided to just scrap her gear and start over with her. But she can be really, really good, especially if you have Mikage. But if you don't have Ninja or you don't have Toshiro, Obero is a really nice fill in there. And then, some of these other champs, if you happen to get legendaries, can definitely get it done. They can provide the damage you need. I really think what this faction is lacking rather than damage is support. So, Wuji is a really hard hitter. Toragi is good. He can put some nice buffs on your team. He has provokes and a decreased attack, and he's a poisoner. So when he's attacked, he puts poisons out. So he's a really good choice. And then even Kunoichi can be a pretty respectable tank, and she has a leech that she puts out on an AoE. So again, leech is the debuff that allows you to heal yourself when you attack a champion who has the debuff on the enemy side. So try to get a leech out if you're using heavy hitters and you don't otherwise have healing. That's my recommendation, and hopefully you'll be able to get that crypt completed. And moving on to the last Faction Wars crypt that exists now, there is an empty spot in the game for another one. I think it's a hidden spot. So maybe we'll be seeing a new faction soon. That remains to be seen. But Sylvan Watchers, let's move on to those. And see the team I'm using. So Sylvan Watcher faction is really lacking in damage. I mean, if you have a Nell, more power to you. But I find it hard to get enough damage, or at least I did when I was completing this faction crypt. I've since picked up a Daithy, Mistrider Daithy, who is a really strong damage champ. So if you get him, build him. And Kaolt is another really strong damage champ. So I've picked up both of those since completing this crypt at stage 21 with 3 stars. So I'm not even sure if either of them is geared or is on my team yet. Doesn't look like it. But what I've been running is a Cryodan the Blue for crowd control. He also can provide some damage, but I just use him for the AoE freeze, the crowd control. I'm able to get my level 50 Ruella comes in with this A2 ability and gives my team some speed up. So this is debuffs and some damage. She can steal turn meter at times that's really needed, so it's a good skill. And then I use White Dryad Nia at level 50 to reset my Cryodan. That's usually who I reset. And when you're autoing it, you want to put Cryodan in the lead so that she'll select him to receive the cooldown reset. So keep that in mind if you're running something similar to my team. And then I use my level 50 Tree Shield Knot in case Ruella or someone who's squishy, there's some squishy people on my team. If they do actually go down, then he picks them back up. And then King Galkapar, and he runs a lot of protection as well as being able, with this ability, his A2, to remove all of the buffs and put a block buffs debuff out on the team. And then all the buffs he removes get converted to poisons using this ability. And then with this ability, he removes all debuffs on your team and replaces all the debuffs with a continuous heal. As well as putting a shield up. So he's actually a really good legendary. If you get him, he'll make your faction war team for sure. That's my guess. But there are some other great champs out here. This one, if you've ascended her, she can grant an instant turn for herself or someone else. And then even the rare Shadow Bow Turlac is pretty strong. He gives you some good support and some increased speed. And he has a damage mitigation passive, some other things. And Ornn, my Celiac Priest Ornn, is pretty popular. I have one here at 50, and I'm probably going to enhance him and bring him up. So there's some champs that can get this done here, but I'll suggest to you that you may have a similar experience to mine, that the faction is really good at staying alive, but there's not a lot of damage unless you happen to pull one of the couple damage champs who can actually put out some pretty good damage numbers. But you can get this done using even some level 50 champs. I have 3 level 50s on my team, plus these two, Cryodan and Galkabar, at 60, and they're able to do it on auto. They just get it done, and it's because there's so much healing, so much shielding, a reviver, and so forth. They just keep everything under control, and it's a death by 1,000 cuts, but they do get it done. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to put together a Sylvan Watcher team that can complete faction wars for you. I haven't gone through, the index and looked at all the champs who were out there, but I think you will probably agree. Although I have some good champs, my roster is not um, top notch. I'm definitely running with some inferior teams, and I'm actually kind of glad to say that you can do it that way. I don't at all mind showing that I don't have all the fancy toys. I completed Faction Wars with a bunch of level 40s on my teams, a bunch of level 50s on my teams, rares and epics. Yes, there were some legendaries. Yes, there were some mythicals, and some crypts are really difficult to get done without the mythical or key champs that you need. And you will get stuck, honestly. If you just don't have certain champs, you can get stuck. Gearing can get you only so far. Sometimes you need skills, but you can employ a couple strategies to try to get you through. If you just don't quite have the damage, look at using your sets like Galkabar, for example. I put him in a 9-piece protection. If you could swing that, all the extra buffs that he puts up will boost the damage output that your Sylvan Watchers will be able to achieve, by reason of the attribute of the set here. My apologies. Let me click on the correct button. So you get protected buffs, but you also get, importantly, 5% more damage for each buff placed by the wearer of the set. So if you can get a protection set on a buffer, or a full 9-piece feral set on a debuffer, again, I have that on my Venom Mage here, you can boost damage that way. If it's more of a survivability issue that you're worried about, and you just maybe don't have healers or revivers, you can try doing what I did with my Magnar, putting him in a Swift Parry. My Lamassu, I put her in Swift Parry. I didn't have the healing and reviving and demon spawn. So that's kind of another hack. You can use the Swift Parry. And yes, it's trial and error. If the Swift Parry doesn't proc when you need it to, that can be problematic. But give it enough tries and you'll probably eventually get it using strategies like that. So good luck to you all. I hope this video was helpful. If you have some teams or champions that you think are just the MVPs for faction crypts, especially if they're non-mythicals, maybe not legendaries either, something that's a little bit more free to play friendly, please feel free to offer comments below and help some other players get their crypts completed before hard mode comes out. Thanks everyone. Bye.